So decomposition, we normally heard about the earthworm, that earthworm normally they degrade or they break down the complex organic matter into the, complex organic matter which is there in the soil, and they also are responsible for loosening of the soil, right? So they are good for the farmers, so they are called farmers of friends of the farmer, right? Similarly, in the same way, right, like earthworm, right? So many other organisms are there in the soil which can break the complex organic matter into the inorganic substances. Earthworm is not able to break down the complex organic matter into the inorganic substance, right? They just break down the complex organic substances into the simpler organic substances, right? Or they are loosening the soil. But here the decomposers are the organisms which will break the organic substances and will convert themselves into the inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, right, etc., etc., right? So this process of conversion of the organic substances into the inorganic substances, right? किसको? तो कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑर्गेनिक मैटर को कन्वर्ट कर रहा है किसमें? सिंपलर इनऑर्गेनिक सब्सटेंसेस में. सो दिस प्रोसेस इज कॉल्ड डिकम्पोजिशन. इसको हम क्या बोलते हैं? डिकम्पोजिशन. So decomposition is the process where the complex organic substances, complex organic matter has been degraded into the simpler inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, nutrient, right? It's called decomposition, right? Okay. So what happens in the ecosystem? The plant, animals, right? The other organisms, they die. Time will come when they die. So dead animal remains of the plant, like, or the parts of the plant like leaf, bark, flowers, right? The dead animals, right? Their fecal matters. So all together they constitute detritus. See, a term यहाँ पे क्या लिख रहा है? Detritus, right? So all together जितने भी dead substances हैं, चाहे वो animal के हों, plant के हों या कोई भी organism के हों, so they constitute detritus. क्या बना रहा है वो? Detritus बना रहा है. And these detritus are actually the raw material for the decomposition. यही क्या है? Decomposition के लिए raw material है. Okay. So the decomposition is the process which is responsible for the breakdown of the complex substances which are there in the leaf, bark, flowers, dead animals, their fecal matters, into the simpler inorganic substances which are available again for the living being, right? So this process, this entire process of the decomposition, they involve certain steps, right? So we divided the entire decomposition process into the 5 different steps. The first step is fragmentation, right? Second step is leaching. Third step is catabolism. Fourth step is the humidification, and fourth step is the mineralization. ये 5 अलग-अलग स्टेप है जिसमें ये पूरे के पूरे डिकम्पोजिशन प्रोसेस को हम स्टडी करेंगे, राइट? ओके. सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वी ट्राई टू अंडरस्टैंड a terminology, similar terminology, which is called detritivores. We heard we just understood the term detritus. So detritus is nothing but the dead remains of the plant as well as the animals when they're fecal matter, animal fecal matter, right? So detritivores are the animals which break down the detritus into the small particles, okay, like earthworm, right? We understood earlier that detritivores, the best example is earthworm. So earthworm, what they do, they break down the substances, large substances into the small particles, okay? And this process is called fragmentation. So first step of decomposition is fragmentation, which is carried out by the earthworm and like animals. All right, understood? Okay. The second process, so this first step is completed now, right? So fragmentation is the process in which the detritivores, like earthworm, they break down the detritus into the smaller particles. So first step is over. Once the fragmentation has been done, Then the another process that is called leaching occurs. So leaching is nothing but the process in which the water soluble inorganic substances go down into the soil horizon and gets precipitated, right? And these salts are unavailable for the plants and other organisms, right? लीचिंग क्या है? सेकेंड प्रोसेस लीचिंग. लीचिंग में क्या हो रहा है कि जो फ्रेगमेंटेशन किया, डेट्राइटिवोर्स ने क्या किया? फ्रेगमेंटेशन किया, बड़े सब्सटेंसेस को छोटे सब्सटेंसेस में तोड़ा, राइट? तो तोड़ने के प्रोसेस में जो वाटर सॉल्युबल सॉल्ट्स हैं, कौन से? Water soluble inorganic nutrients, they got precipitated into the soil horizon, right? They precipitated down into the soil horizon, right? And this process is called leaching. And this leached salt, जिसकी leaching हो गई, those salts are unavailable for the plants and animals, right? So this second process is completed, leaching. तो decomposition में जो second process है leaching है, complete हो गई, all right? And after leaching, the third process, which is called catabolism. So what happens now? The different organisms like bacteria and fungi, they are having many enzymes, right? And they degrade the detritus, which is now into the small particles, small fragments, right? Into the simplest inorganic substances. So bacteria and fungi, they are having enzymes, and those enzymes degrade these detritus, right, into the simpler organic substances, sorry, inorganic substances, and this process is called catabolism. So third step is the catabolism. First we have seen the fragmentation, second leaching, and third is the catabolism, right? So catabolism is the enzyme driven process, okay, keep in the mind. And mostly bacteria as well as the fungi, they are having the enzymes which degrade the detritus or small detritus after fragmentation and leaching into the small inorganic substances, simpler inorganic substances, and this process is called catabolism. So this is the third step of the decomposition, right? And then after the, so see these three processes, I mean the fragmentation, leaching, and catabolism, this occurs in the or on the detritus. ये कहाँ पे हो रहा है? On the detritus. So these three processes occurs on the detritus, right? And this two last processes, these two last processes, that is humidification and the mineralization, this occurs in the soil. ये कहाँ पे होगी? Soil में होगी, ये ध्यान रखना, right? So here these two processes, these occurs in soil, right? ये कहाँ पे होगा? तो soil में होगा. So what happens here? That that is written here. So all the above steps of the decomposition, they operate simultaneously on the detritus, right? It occurs on the detritus, and we have figure, we'll see in the next slide. So the fourth process, that is humidification and the mineralization, it occurs in the soil. ये कहाँ पे होगी? Soil में. So note it down, right? Last two processes, this occurs in the soil. So first of all, we have a look to the 14.1 figure, that is three processes which occurs on the detritus is like that. This is plant, and this is the green old leaves which is fallen down from the plant. So these are the worms, they first make the small fragments. So fragmentation took place, right? So after fragmentation, so some nutrients, they leach into the soil by chemical action, right? And then the fungi and the bacteria, here mushroom is shown. So fungi and bacteria, they are having enzymes, and they break down, and I mean third process, that is catabolism, occurs, right? So if required, further decomposition by the earthworm takes place, if required, right? Earthworm, bacteria, soil mites, fungi, etc., right? And finally the soil becomes rich in the organic, finally the soil becomes rich in the organic matter, right? And this organic rich soil again be available for the plants, right? So here the diagrammatic representation of decomposition cycle in the terrestrial ecosystem, right? And here the three processes they have seen shown here. The first is the fragmentation, right? First is the fragmentation, second is the leaching, and third is the catabolism, right? So the fourth process, which is called humification. So humification is a process where the accumulation of dark colored amorphous substances, that is called humus. It's something which is called humus. Humus is a dark colored amorphous substances which are slowly accumulates in the soil, right? And these humus are highly resistant to the microbial action, and undergoes decomposition at an extremely slow rate, right? This humification process means formation of humus, right? So this is a very slow process, and this is nothing but the dark colored amorphous substances which keeps on deposition into the soil, and they are highly resistant to the microbial action, right? And they are, or since they are colloidal substances, humus is the colloidal substances, so they are available into the nature and they serve as the reservoir for the nutrients. They are reservoir for the nutrients, right? And again, the further, right, the last step of the detrification is the degradation of the humus by some microbes, right? Degradation of the humus by the microbes and the release of the inorganic nutrients into the soil, and this process is called mineralization. जो humus में minerals present हैं, right, उस minerals को निकाल देता है by the action of some microbial enzymes, right, and this process is called mineralization, right? So these two steps occur in the soil. ये कहाँ पे होती है? Soil में होती है. ऊपर वाला तीन process कहाँ पे हुआ? तो that occurs onto the detritus, right? Okay. अब देखो ये factors हैं. These are the factors which are affecting for the detrification. बहुत important है ये. So entire decomposition process is oxygen dependent process. मतलब oxygenic environment में होगा. Oxygen इसको चाहिए हमेशा. Anaerobic condition में decomposition नहीं हो सकती है. And the rate of decomposition is controlled by the many climatic conditions as well as the chemical composition of the detritus. Okay, entire जो decomposition की process है किस पे depend करता है? Chemical composition of the detritus and the climatic factor. तो पहले हम chemical composition की बात करें detritus की. So in particular climate, okay, चलो climatic condition की पहले बात किया. तो climatic conditions of the decomposition is slow if the detritus is rich in lignin and chitin. If the detritus is made up of lignin and chitin, then rate of decomposition is slow. याद रखना भैया, right? And quick if the detritus are rich in nitrogen, water soluble substances like sugar. ये quick होगा. यदि sugar है, nitrogen है, तो ये क्या होगा? Quick होगा. क्या चीज? Decomposition की process. यदि lignin है, काइटिन है, सुबेरिन है, इन सब से क्या होगी? डेट्राइटस जो डिट्रिफिकेशन है, डिकम्पोजिशन है, वो स्लो हो जाएगी. ओके, ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, दोनों ध्यान रखना. देन अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट द टेम्परेचर एंड सॉइल मॉइस्चर प्लेज एन इंपॉर्टेंट रोल इन द decomposition process, entire decomposition process, right? So normally what happens actually, the temperature, I mean warm and the moist environment, यदि थोड़ी गर्मी हो और moist environment हो, they favors the decomposition process, favor करता है decomposition process को. और यदि कम temperature हो, low temperature and the low moisture as well as the anaerobic environment, they inhibit the decomposition process, resulting into the building up of the organic materials, right? I mean low temperature, anaerobic environment, ये सभी स्लो डाउन करता है डिकम्पोजिशन के प्रोसेस को, जबकि वार्म एटमॉस्फेयर, वार्म एनवायरनमेंट, मॉइस्ट एनवायरनमेंट, दे फेवर्स द प्रोसेस ऑफ डिकम्पोजिशन.